welcome to Pub Football with Mars and Jimmy, reviewing this weekend's Premier League action. Goals, 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 so many goals. It was absolutely incredible. I think this season will break the record for goals in a Premier League season, and by a considerable margin. No one can defend anymore. No one. It's forgotten. I think there was a commentary on the, was it the Spurs game or was it the Liverpool game, where the commentator said, I don't know what's happened to Premier League defending, but I really like it. And I do too. The games have been incredible. Let's just crack straight into the first game of the weekend. Of course, there's some massive results to talk about a little bit later on. They'll be the last couple we get to. But starting with Chelsea, beating Crystal Palace 4-0. Bad result for Palace. Palace are a weird one, aren't they? Because they're capable of playing really well, like they did against Man United. And they're capable of being really bad, like they were against Chelsea. And Chelsea fully capitalised on a poor Palace display.
Yeah, agreed. First half was fairly even. I thought Palace defended really well, actually. And as soon as the first goal went in, it was kind of floodgates opened. A couple of mistakes from the young lad at left back, gave a penalty away. But yeah, good for Chelsea, back to winning ways and need to kind of hit the ground running a little bit more, don't they? But yeah, played all right.
Goal for Chilwell, and Tammy Abraham was involved in a penalty dispute, before having a party, which means that they're having to join up with the England squad late. Bit irresponsible. It's neither of their fault. It wasn't either of them that organised the party, but at the same time, they should know now that as soon as it starts to get out of hand, they have to say, look, we've got to park the brakes on this and go, leave.
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit immature from Abraham with the penalty as well. You know who the penalty taker is. I don't care if you're winning 7-0.
I don't mind that a striker wants to score.
Not having that. Not having that. You know who the penalty taker is. He's your designated penalty taker. He might do a stupid hop when he takes it, but he takes the penalties and he scores. Yeah. And he needs to back down. It's not his decision, and he'll get bags of goals this year. It's not a problem.
Let's move straight on to Everton, Brighton. Move through quickly because there's so much to talk about. But Everton, how long do they have to keep winning before we talk about them as genuine title challengers, even top four, not just top four challengers, because they're a really, really tidy side now.
They are. Obviously, we'll come on to later games. It's becoming very unpredictable, the league at the moment, isn't it? And Everton, 4 out of 4, playing well. Got a keeper who is deliberately trying to lose some games at the moment, but they are getting the job done. Calvert-Lewin up front is scoring goals galore. James looks great. And even with injuries of Gomez out and a couple of others, they're still doing okay.
I was about to say. So this is a game they won with no Andre Gomez, no Allen, and Richarlison went off early. So he went off in the first half, and they still looked brilliant. And this is something where, yes, bringing new players in makes the other players play better, but at the same time, a word of advice to some of the other coaches that are moaning about not being backed. Ancelotti is improving the players in that squad. He's actually coaching them, and it's reaping rewards. And I honestly think they are a very, very good shout for the top 4. And it could be a title challenge. They've got that little bit of class now.
They do with James, definitely. I think they brought in Ben Godfrey today. Who's a cracking centre-half. That's a very good signing. And yeah, there is something about Everton, isn't there? They're riding the crest of the wave, and we hope it continues. I know the Merseyside derby is next, which is massive.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens in that one. 7-7. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
As for Brighton, yes, it's a loss, but I don't think they were awful. I just think they came up against a much better side, but I'm still really impressed with them.
Yeah, definitely. They started really well, Brighton. They're just not getting the results they deserve, to be honest. I know they obviously lost at the weekend and probably deserved to, but the United game should have got something out of it. We're unlucky against Chelsea in the first game, and it'll come. They'll be fine this year.
Leeds won, Manchester City won. We watched this game. Leeds were brilliant again. And Man City, it just shows they bought the centre-back that they want. I know it's his first game. I know he's not had much time to bed in, but didn't do enough. I thought Leeds were great value for the point and could have even nicked it when Rodrigo hit the bar towards the end of the game.
Definitely another Leeds performance where they just give it a go. And I love the gung-ho style. I love the high pressing. You get like 5 players ahead of the ball. It's just brilliant. And Man City can cope for periods of the game. I know they started fairly well, Man City. Obviously scored a great goal through Sterling. But I thought, I agree with you. I thought Leeds should have nicked it at the end. And Rodrigo getting a goal, which is good to see. But yeah, good performance.
that we're going to have the Leeds wobble second half of the season? Do you think teams will figure it out around Christmas and it might be a struggle the second half?
Yeah, obviously Bielsa has a history of his teams completely collapsing with about a quarter of the season to go, and I could see them getting smashed in the reverse fixture about 6-0. But at the moment, they're an absolute joy to watch and a breath of fresh air for the Premier League, and I hope it continues because I love watching Leeds.
More worrying times for Man City, though. This is supposedly their top back four now, and
Hmm.
again, just not good enough. They're just 2 games without a win, which over the last few years, to win a title, you can barely afford not to win 2 games, let alone for them to be back to back.
Definitely, and yeah, obviously they're already what 8 points behind Everton, who are going to win the league. But yeah, they're already off the pace, and it is concerning that he seems really happy to get a point against Leeds, which is a bit weird considering they have been fantastic for the last couple of years. But you can get a City these days. It's not the team of 2 years ago. Without Aguero, Jesus up front, they struggled for anyone to kind of just play that leading role. And yeah, they are struggling, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Newcastle 3, Burnley 1. Steve Bruce, before the game, was hitting out the detractors saying, what more can I do? I think I'm doing a pretty good job. If they won, they were going to go into the top. They could have gone into the top 6, of course, with other results over the weekend. They've come back down the league. But it's been a good start to the season for Newcastle. And Alan St. Maximin looked fantastic. I think Steve Bruce has a case. We've said it the whole time. We think he's done a great job.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually listening to the radio just before the game, actually, and they had a local reporter on just slating Bruce's tactics, the performances. But look at the results. They are flying at the moment. And St. Maximin was fantastic. He was the difference. The assist was great. The goal was brilliant. And unfortunately, I think Burnley are going to be struggling this year big time.
Yeah. Well, you said the slating the performances. I'm looking at the moment. They've got some really real excitement just because that they defend in banks and they sit back and they are organised. Doesn't mean it's not exciting. Alan St. Maximin is breezing past players. Callum Wilson running the channels. I don't see what's not exciting about that football. Yeah, just because you don't have De Bruyne there pulling the strings, but be realistic.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the dross from last week at Spurs that maybe made people go, Christ, we're terrible. But take that away from it, they've had a really, really solid start, and they are getting better week by week. And I agree. I agree.
You say the dross against Spurs, they're trying to set up to get a result against a team that's better than them. And sometimes you have to sacrifice the free-flowing football you want to see because you can get pumped if that happens.
Agreed. I completely agree. And you look at the other games, they've played really well. I know they got stuffed against Brighton, but Brighton are a decent side. But apart from that, they've looked really good, and hope it continues because I do like Bruce. He's doing a good job.
I agree with you about Burnley. They're in trouble, and I don't really love their signings. I think they got Stevens in from Brighton, and he's just, you know what you're getting from Burnley, but at the same time, the rest of the Premier League feels like it's stepped up a level to deal with that type of football. Maybe it'll keep them up, but at the moment, they're in the relegation scrap, and I think they're going to stay in a relegation scrap. They just don't look very good.
No, I agree. Sort of players from last year, like Dwight McNeil's done nothing so far. There aren't Ashley Barnes and who's up front?
Chris Wood normally, Rodriguez.
Chris Wood, yeah, just not scoring goals, not affecting the games, and they are struggling. Their team's not good enough, and the board needs to back Dyche. And unfortunately, we're running out of time for the transfer window shutting, so I don't think it's going to happen.
On to Sunday's games. Leicester getting, I would say, upset by West Ham, but all of a sudden, West Ham are putting a run together and they're looking quite good. Mikel Antonio, Darren Bent was calling for him to be put in the England squad, and he can't be far off. He's scoring goals. He might not be the most attractive footballer in terms of what England are looking for in terms of 1-2 touch football, but as a plan B, we've said it before for West Ham, it works, and West Ham are flying. Leicester, this is a chance to put a real marker down for their intentions this season, but it looks like it's going to be very frustrating, and you can definitely group them in sort of a level with, I would say, the Spurses and the Arsenals and even maybe Wolves in that sort of off the top level of football at the moment. And it could be a slog for Leicester this season if they keep dropping points, especially at home in games like this.
Yeah, agreed. It's incredible what David Moyes can do manager-wise when he's at home. They're absolutely smashing it at the moment. But yeah, fair play to West Ham. I thought they were brilliant. And as you say, you think Leicester, we beat Man City last week. Let's consolidate that with another home win. And they didn't. They were absolutely horrific. And
Well,
fair
they
play.
beat Man City
Mikel,
on the road, didn't they? Are they going to be better
yeah,
on the road? Is that how Leicester's season's going to be?
definitely. And Mikel Antonio absolutely bossed their back line. He was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. And fair play to West Ham. Fans weren't behind them at the start of the season, but they are flying, and then fair play to them.
Fans won't be behind West Ham until Sullivan and Gold
No,
leave.
but
Like
team's playing
Newcastle
well.
with Mike Ashley, they'll find something to moan about. They just
Yeah,
hate it. Southampton 2,
yeah.
West Brom 0. I'm going to say that West Brom are going to go down this season after being 3-0 up against Chelsea and flying to be pegged back to 3-all. Another loss in a game that actually, by being 3-up and getting a 3-all draw against Chelsea, should have been a confidence builder. They just do a hell of a lot again. And Southampton, who had a shocking start to the season, and now coming into their own and looking a little bit better and picking up the wins where they should be picking up wins.
Yep, 2-2 for Southampton. Good wins where you need to win them. West Brom were terrible again. Didn't really create anything. Really are struggling, aren't they? I'm struggling to see where they're going to pick up points from at the moment.
Mm.
But yeah, no, very, very good performance from Southampton. And Danny Ings didn't score, did he? Which makes a change.
It does make a change. Gineppo and Oriol Romeu, which came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
great finish as well, banged it in.
Hmm.
Arsenal, Sheffield United. Now, I want to ask you a question about this because it wasn't vintage Arsenal. It wasn't a classic. It was actually a pretty dull game. The first thing I want to ask about is the David Luiz incident in the first half when he got robbed of the ball and he's clearly pulled Oliver Burke's shirt. Now, watching Match of the Day 2, they were saying you shouldn't have to go down there. VAR should pick that up and it should be a red card. And I agree, but you might say Spurs bias, of course. He's a Spurs fan. What do you think about the incident? Do you think David Luiz should have been pulled?
I think he was incredibly, incredibly fortunate. Considering John Egan 2 weeks ago got done for a similar thing with Ollie Watkins, I was actually shocked he wasn't sent off, to be honest. And yeah, obviously it led to us ending up winning the game. But I thought, as you say, throughout it was pretty poor. Struggled to break them down. Didn't do a lot. And Nicolas Pepe made a difference, which makes a change. But obviously we are desperately linked with Partey at the moment. If we could get him across the line, it'd be great. But there is something in that midfield area, just lack a bit of creativity. And Mesut Ozil, maybe.
A lot in that midfield. I just don't. I look at Arsenal right now, and you've got good players across the board. The midfield is really, really lacking. Xhaka and El Neni is not a great midfield. And El Neni has started every game this season, which is just crazy to me, how he's come in from being loaned out when you thought that's the end of his Arsenal career. He's never done much for Arsenal. I don't understand how he's the player who seems to be being relied on. I just don't think he's that good.
No, agreed. And I don't like our system when we're playing at home where we should dominate a game. It just doesn't work. We're too deep. Everyone's coming towards the ball. I thought Aubameyang was pretty ineffectual as usual, to be honest. He hasn't done a lot since he signed his contract, which makes you laugh. But yeah, apart from that, we do need someone in midfield. We're crying out for Mesut Ozil desperately, someone to do something a little bit different.
Back to winning ways, which is great for Arsenal. That's what you want after losing to Liverpool. It is 3 wins from 4, with the only loss coming against the champions at Anfield, and no one will begrudge you that. What's the expectation for you as an Arsenal fan now? Because at the start of the season, Arsenal fans were flying high. It was, we're going to finish in the top 4, with some Arsenal fans even saying we're going to challenge for the title. After the Liverpool loss, sort of tempered expectations slightly. And now this game against Sheffield United, where, like we said, it wasn't a classic, it wasn't vintage, it was workman-like almost. And the game against was it Fulham as well, where no, it wasn't Fulham. Was it West Brom? You played second. Who'd you
played someone at home, didn't we? And we struggled big time.
West
West Ham.
West Ham. You just went past West Ham. That's right. What's your expectation now? Are you still got that optimism, or seeing the other teams around you, are you starting to temper the expectations a bit?
Well, yeah, when you see Everton flying, obviously Spurs are looking better by the week and Bell's yet to come in. I would say we're going to be in and around 4th, 5th, 6th, but it's very dependent on if we can be consistent, if we can create chances and beat the teams who we should beat. and stick in there against the teams we shouldn't. We've got half a chance. But as you say, from 2-3 weeks ago, I feel a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure at the moment. But
Didn't take
get
long.
Partey over the line. Get Partey over the line. Guendouzi's out. Brilliant. Let's see what we do.
Wolves, Fulham, important to get back to winning ways for Wolves. Again, not a classic. This is why Wolves aren't. I just think that they're a tier below the top four, even potentially top six. I'm not sure about Wolves this season. Fulham, I think, are gone. They just lack quality. They could have had a point. They could have had a couple of goals at least in the game. They just weren't taking their chances. And I mean, the positive for Fulham is they only conceded once because the defence has been such a shambles. But yeah, important for Wolves to win. Fulham, just I can't see where a win's coming from.
No, agreed. It seemed like Fulham's goalkeeper kept them in at points with double saves and doing everything he possibly could do. But yeah, as you say, Wolves are a bit weird at the moment, aren't they? They're very inconsistent. You're not really sure what you're going to get from them. I thought they were going to absolutely batter Fulham, but obviously it was just kept down to one. And by the looks of it, Adoma Lookman came in. He looked pretty decent for Fulham, which is a positive. But apart from that, they are a seriously poor Championship side.
Right. Manchester United 1, Tottenham Hotspur 6 at Old Trafford. Let's get into this. The first thing I want to do is actually praise Tottenham. Unlike Sky Sports, Tottenham played well to win. It wasn't all about Man United not playing very well, because that's what the post-match analysis would have told you. I thought Tottenham were absolutely excellent from 30 seconds into the game. So the first 30 seconds, not great. Davinson Sanchez being clumsy, giving away a penalty, nothing Lloris could do. A very nice penalty from Bruno Fernandes. From that point on, Tottenham were great. I thought Ndombele played very, very well. I know he looks a bit leggy at times. It's just the way he runs. That's his gait, I think. But on the ball, always positive, always looking forward, always looking to unpick the lock. And that's something Tottenham struggled with over the years. It's just passing sideways and around the edge of the box. He looks to punch it in and looks for the 1-2, makes that movement. I thought Højbjerg was the best player on the pitch. Perfect holding midfielder. He's exactly what Spurs have missed over the last couple of years. I was a bit critical of him at the start of the season, but that's the performance that I see him, and I've actually gone, we've got a player here. He actually does look like the player that we've been lacking. I thought Lamela was great. We'll get onto him in a second. I thought Kane and Son were brilliant. Reguilon was great. Even Aurier played really well. I thought Tottenham were brilliant. They were aggressive. They moved the ball quickly. They exploited the space that Man United were leaving. It was a great performance.
Yeah, I can't disagree. As you say, take away the first minute where it was a classic Davinson Sanchez mistake, which is going to happen. Apart from that, even 11 against 11, you absolutely battered Man United. It was really, really poor from United, honestly. So I think it was 2-1 up and you were still absolutely bombarding De Gea with shots, last-minute blocks. There was only one team who was ever going to win that game and thoroughly deserved it. Unbelievable performance.
It just, as a Spurs fan, it was everything that we've asked for from Tottenham. Right, let's talk about the red card incident, because it was a red card, but I think it was a red card for Lamela as well. The only explanation I can have for VAR not giving the red was that they didn't feel like there was sufficient evidence to overturn it for a clear and obvious error, just because Lamela's arm, I think, because the way it caught the chest or shoulder first on the way up, and he wasn't necessarily looking at the player. That's the only explanation I could possibly give for them not deciding that's a red as well. However, stupid from Martial, just on a game where Man United were just stupid. Just all the players, just stupid mistakes. Luke Shaw should have been sent off as well, because that was a disgusting tackle at the end. Dumb all round.
Yeah, no, agreed. It was petulance from Martial, wasn't it? And to be fair, Lamela played the game and it worked an absolute treat. That Argentinian fire in him and a little bit of unsportsmanship worked quite nicely. But yeah, for me, he should have been sent off as well. I think give them both a red, get on with it.
I think
but as you say,
just honestly, the way the game
yeah, no, I agree. Even 10 against 10, honestly, you would have battered them. And second half, United were absolutely awful. I know they're a man down, but there was no fight. There was no passion. Didn't look like they wanted to score, just wanted to sit there and get it over and done with. I thought Pogba was absolutely awful.
Let's talk about
fault for one goal, gave a penalty away. He was awful.
Pogba, this is the performances from Pogba, because this isn't a standalone bad performance from Pogba. We've seen it so many times from him. It's the reason he's not world class. He's a player of world class ability and potential. Well, I'm not going to say potential now. He's 28. gone. Potential's gone. He's a player who should be world class, who has all of the skills to be world class, but attitude-wise, I just don't think it's there, and I don't think it ever will be there. He was lazy in possession. He got dispossessed so many times, taking way too long on the ball when you just wanted to shift it, or trying the Hollywood pass when it wasn't on. I thought it's the first game I've ever seen Bruno Fernandes play very badly as well, and that worried me. Matic just, again, did nothing. They were never in the right position. They were all over the place. And you can talk about the defending. Harry Maguire looks like someone who's got no confidence at the moment. The first goal was just complete shambles.
Yeah, agreed. The back four are an absolute liability at the moment, and I can't believe United has spent an entire transfer window not looking to amend that, get a Koulibaly in, get the young lad in from Leipzig, get someone with a lot of quality that you can mould and you can make a proper back four out of. Their transfer policy is a load of rubbish, and we'll go on to that another time. But the performance was all over the show. Luke Shaw was terrible. I just thought the entire team were poor, and it was really, really embarrassing.
Well, they almost had £400 million worth of player in that starting lineup. It's not exactly like everyone talking about Man United manager not being back this window, yes, but De Gea was £18 million, Wan-Bissaka 50 mil last year, Bailly was 30 mil a few years ago, Maguire 80 mil, Shaw 30 mil, Matic 30 mil, Pogba 90 million. Has never played like a £90 million player. 40 mil max is the output they've got from him. Bruno Fernandes 47 million and Martial 45 million. They've spent a lot of money on that squad and they weren't good enough. And it wasn't just the defence. The midfield didn't protect. The forwards, I wouldn't put too much blame on them after Martial was sent off, but again, they didn't offer much. There was a lot of running into players and not holding onto the ball well enough.
No, I agree. And it's just all round a bit of a debacle at Man United at the moment, isn't it? Obviously, right now, they're just trying to get anyone through the door who might make a difference and give the club a lift.
Cavani's not the answer.
Cavani's not the answer. Alex Telles at left back is not the answer. Apologies. You need a proper centre half in there. And to be honest, United might finish 6th or 7th this year again. It's going to be very inconsistent.
They could finish even lower than that if they play like they have done so far this season. Right, Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2 at Villa Park. This game was mad. It was absolutely mad. Liverpool were awful. They were constantly being exposed with runs in behind. Jamie Carragher summed it up perfectly. They're playing the offside trap, but none of the players are ready for if it doesn't work. You can play the offside trap with the right body shape to then sprint back. They weren't doing that, and it was just an onslaught. Ollie Watkins was brilliant. I thought Jack Grealish was fantastic. Barkley had a great debut. It was perfect for Aston Villa. No one saw this coming.
No, agreed. As you say, the high line didn't work. It caused absolute carnage, and Villa took kind of full advantage of that. I thought every time they came forward, I thought they were going to score. And I thought Joe Gomez was absolutely terrible. I don't know what he was doing, but he was all over the show.
Gomez and Maguire are the two players that we would have picked as our England centre-back pairing, and both of them are terrible at the moment.
Agreed. And yeah, as you say, I thought Grealish was great coming in from the left. Barkley kept making that late run, which was working a treat. He got in about 3 or 4 times. But across the board, I thought Villa were fantastic. I'm so pleased for Ollie Watkins getting a couple of goals as well. Builds the confidence, took him really well. Perfect hat-trick. The second goal was a beaut as well. He made Gomez look like an idiot. And yeah, they could have scored more. They hit the bar. They had loads of chances. It's just an incredible game of football. I know 3 of them were deflected, but I don't care. I'm quite pleased to see Liverpool get absolutely battered for once. It's good to see. It might kick them into life.
For me, teams playing against Liverpool now aren't going to be worried because they're going to say they're not going to change this system. And the fullbacks have always been good going forward, but there's always been a weakness in defending that no one's exploited. I think now they'll see the weakness and they'll think, right, especially when Mane's not playing. This was the game that exposed how good Mane is and how important he is, because without him, and Patrice Evra said, I think it was at half time, that there's Salah and Firmino aren't aggressive players. I saw a lot of backlash with that on Twitter, but I understood what he was trying to say. It's not that they're not aggressive with the ball, it's without the ball. That press always starts with Mane, and then Firmino and Salah sort of react off it and they can come in a bit slower. But because Mane wasn't there doing that legwork, they aren't as aggressive as Mane, and that's why it was so easy to come through them. And Aston Villa exploited it so well.
Agreed. As you say, Mane has always been the most Yeah, he's the best player of that front three, isn't he, by a country mile?
Mm.
And I like Diego Jota, but he didn't do anything. He's not a similar type of player, is he? He's not a hustler. He might be quite good playing between the lines and trying to score goals and find space. But apart from that, he doesn't close the ball down. Doesn't have that aggression, and he's just not in that league in a million years. And Minamino comes on, not good enough.
Doesn't do anything.
Desperately miss Henderson at the moment. Miss someone in midfield to drive them forward. But yeah, they are struggling at the moment. You take away those players, and you realise that there's not too much behind them that you think is particularly great at the moment.
And Adrian just looked awful. There was the first goal, of course, and then one where Ollie Watkins hit the bar. He was all over the place.
They've been linked with Gazzaniga today. I can see why after last night.
Yeah, so can I. And he's third choice at Spurs now. I think it'd be a good move for Gazzaniga. But at the moment, I'd be reluctant to let him go. The way that Spurs have played over the last week anyway, and the way Liverpool have played, are they a rival? Maybe that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But there's a weakness in Liverpool. We spoke about this before going into this weekend, that we felt there was a weakness against Arsenal. There was a vulnerability, and well, I think that proved it. Anyway, that was Pub Football with Miles and Jimmy. Crazy weekend of Premier League action. We're going to do another video tomorrow to wrap up the transfer window. We've got, 3.5 hours of the transfer window left, give or take. And I'm excited because I think there's going to be some panic buys from some people at the top end of the Premier League. One thing left to say, cheers. Get it all together. We'll get it.